Right. I'm going to do this in two parts. Hopefully it'll work. I've got my new Bradford bench cam set up ready somewhere there for later on. But what I'm going to do first of all is a little sort of potted history of why I started doing this stuff, and I'll run through
Mick,
a few.
I'll just jump in.
Yeah, go on.
Do you want me to put your screen as large on the for everyone to see?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a share screen first, Paul, and run through a lot of photographs.
So I just want, okay.
Yeah, and then afterwards, on the bench cam, put that as full screen. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, I'll start with sharing screen. So what I'm saying, I'm going to do not done anything like this before, so hopefully it all works. So hopefully you've now got a picture of a BG on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Generator. Right. Yeah. What happened was, obviously, building Blackmill, the layout from many years ago, we wanted some more different stuff to run. And the first thing I did in yellow was actually a NMT with Hurst etched sides. So it doesn't really come under the remit of what I want to do here. And then we went to Derby with it, with the layout and obviously with NMT. And our digs were just down the road from the RTC centre. So the morning before a show, we had a wander down and came across this thing, which was a pair of 31s at either end, a yellow full brake, a blue coach, which ended up being one of the 4-rep motor cars, which was 62482, and a Mark II, which was one of the ex-roll train staff coaches. So delving into these things, I managed to get myself a Southern Pride sides to do the 4-rep. David Lewis, is it? Did me a couple of bespoke sides. The staff coach was Hurst etch sides, and then the BG is what sort of started it off. So you can see there, the main work on this BG, they've actually been rebuilt since with more doors filled in, but it's these grills. So if we move on a picture, that's the full set of the UTU2, Ultrasonic Test Unit 2. So moving on to the generator van, this is Evergreen 4031, and it's I think they call it siding is the sheet for it, and they do about 3 or 4 different sizes of it, and it appeared to look like a grill. So obviously the hole was cut out larger than the windows with square corners. Those are representing what would be fluorescent lights down the side of the real thing, and that's a scrap etch from some A1 bits I think I had. So this has started me on the road. The next thing along was the structure gauging train. So in true where's Clive Mortimer fashion, this was a Mark 1. I think it started life as a BCK, obviously chopping bits up and gluing them back together. And Bachmann coaches lend themselves for this because the coach roof line and the chassis all line up, and you can sort of slot the pieces in, and you sort of slot them together and then glue them together and then take them out and do what you need to do. And of course, that's the other side. Again, various windows. I think one Mark 1 donated various bits to form 2 other coaches. Here again, here comes the Evergreen 4031, a couple of grills, a couple of filled in windows. Again, filled in windows, and we'll come back to actually how I will physically do a window fill session later on. That's I had the driving cabin at some point, I believe, and that would have been the driver's side window. That is actually just a piece of very thin styrene over the top. Can't let it go by without seeing the SGT itself. That started life as a Bachmann VAA. The underframe, little bits of the sort of WINs as it were, and bits of the body survived, and the rest of it is old plastic card and a couple of white metal bits added on, and that was completed in about 2009, something like that. So quite a long while back now. So here we come to cutting windows in. Now this is it was originally part of Radio Survey Train 3, and the coach was originally one of the ex-First Great Western BSOs with a disabled toilet. So that window there is actually now here. And the way I do these, obviously, is cut these sections out and then get donation pieces from other vehicles and I'll show you later on how one BSO will lend itself to about 7 different coaches. And they're all based on the Airfix Dapol Hornby one because they're cheapest chips, basically. So I will cut the windows out from another coach, nice square sections. And he says, oh, where's it not going? There we go. These are our support bars. So when the new window goes in, it's making itself level. I mean, that's half the job. He's trying to minimize any sort of leveling, filling. So by putting those support bars in, when I put the new window section in, it doesn't go too far back or it doesn't sit too far forward. It sort of aligns itself. That's the window now in place, but you can see obviously there's some great big holes in these places here that need filling in. Now I try wherever possible to use the minimal amount of filler. So I will use styrene as much as possible and then just a tiny bit of filler. The reason behind keeping away from big holes of filler is it tends to shrink. Even thin layers of it does tend to shrink or crack. So the smallest amount you can have, you're going to minimize all that happening. And that's it. Obviously the filler's gone in, and then now starting to sand things down using a mixture of needle files, fiberglass brush, and even a scalpel blade. And again, I'll show you that physically in the not too distant future. And that is once it's had its first layer of Halford's grey undercoat. As everyone probably knows, Halford's grey is the best stuff in the world. Shows up any sort of blemishes, and I just literally dust it over. And if there's any second fill needed, and again, I'm going to come to that with some pictures later on, then away we go. So this shows how I will use various coaches of various bits of donors. So that is the guard's door from a BSO, and that will become the driver's door on a DBSO. There's obviously 2 of them to add. Now, what's happening there? Oh yeah, that's where I've cut one. I see, I've cut one out, cut section out. So the driver's door going in. That window there is actually one of those windows from a donor coat. So I end up with windows that are all the same curvature. They all look the same. The first one I did actually cut it out manually, and you end up, if you're not really careful, the corners don't look quite the same. So this way, everything is consistent. And that's one of the things I try and do across my models is, if I use a standard basic coach for all bar about 3 of my yellow Mark IIs, the results end up looking the same. It ends up being the same consistent look across the fleet. And I think that's important for any model, that you get consistency. So in goes the door, in goes a bit of filler. If necessary, I will use some thin slivers of styrene to fill the gaps before I'll put the filler on. And again, it's just gradually sanded, primered, sanded, primered a couple of times. That's one of the generator fitty ones. So there's a big hole going on the side doors for the grill that goes on. And I've got one of those I can show you later on. That's the grill going in. These are proper warts and all photographs. They really do show everything. The framing is actually paper just around it. So I want a really thin frame. And I will have filled that before it got finally painted. That's coming on slow. Yeah, it's still a bit more to go in. That's probably its first layer of filler. So I'll then go down and take out all the little bits, remains of hinges. But sometimes the grey primer will just show up stuff you can't see under the normal naked eye. This is the mass bandit look. So in the ends, yeah, you've got to cut the windows out. And I developed a little technique. Again, all these techniques work for me. Some people may have different ways of doing it, and fine, if it works for you, do your technique. But what I do here is I actually use the blue masking tape as defined where I want the windows. So that's actually had the corridor blanked over. So it defines where I want the windows, and I compare that against photographs and some of the rough measurements I've got. Then I'll actually very quickly give it a quick dust of primer. So I end up with grey rectangles on the coach. Take the masking tape off, and then I cut to the grey rectangles. obviously being careful with the rounded corners. And that's the end first result. So things like those gaps are going to get filled in before it gets carried on, because DBSOs have like a little eyebrow. They've got the extra sort of deflectors at the sides. There's the horn grill to go in. There's the headlamps, tail lamp housings to go on. Again, all built up out of plastic art. This is proof that I don't always do all yellow. That's actually test car 2, 975397. And one of the windows, what would be a normal compartment window, is now a toilet size window. And that is actually the toilet fitting from the window that got filled. So what was the toilet window there? I've filled half the window and used part of the molding there. So that's test car 2. Another method I use for filling, not just as I say, squadron white putty, but this was a replica coach, and the replica door cutouts are actually quite deep. So what I do is I get a tiny sliver of styrene and push it into the slot with quite a lot of solvent. And it's a proper plastic to plastic joint. It's not filler, because if you put filler on these things and sand them down, you still end up with a line because the filler's that little bit softer. But doing it this way, you're actually filing down plastic. And that becomes the end result. And that is actually plastic. It's almost plastic welding, for want of a better description. But whenever this is done, they're always left a good 24 hours to harden off. Nothing worse than trying to file soft plastic. And those are the actual end result, end coaches. 2 of the, I think they were done for the Network Southeast electrification upgrade. Paul probably able to confirm that. But 2 of them ended up on the site at Derby. So I thought, well, I have to do them. It's a nice colour scheme. Is that really nice livery? One of them has since been scrapped. The one at the back, 990. But this one, as far as I'm aware, is still on site at the research centre at Derby. Oh yeah, handrails. So if I'm chopping off molded handrails, here's a nice little guide that, again, it works for me. Is I'll partially cut the handrails off, the molded ones, and drill the holes. So you can see all the holes have been drilled where the handrails have been partly cut. And then, oops, I must have missed the picture out. I will then completely get rid of the handrails. And I generally scrape it with a blade. And again, I'll show you that technique in a minute. Or more than a few minutes, really. Which coach is this? I can't remember which coach we're on there. Oh yeah, the latest one I've done took quite a bit of work. This is one of the Caledonian BUO, break unclassified opens. And they've got a right mix of doors and windows on these things. So in this case, I've done all the window filling on both sides, and then started to cut them out. So I've filled them all, quick bit of grey primer, and then grafted in a guard's door. That'll be a half window. There we go. So that's them being grafted in. Same on the other side. They're not the clearest pictures, I do apologize. Again, same thing, where I'm putting the section in, there is a reinforcing bar that goes behind it. So when the new door, it just drops into place, and away we go. I seem to have a lot of pictures of this thing here. There we go. Slightly more close-up pictures. And then literally that's last night. That was last night's little bit of grey paint on it. And the reason I've done a BUO is because there's 4 of them now being used as brake force runners in the test fleet, mostly with ultrasonic test coaches. Now, once I've done a window fill and done a grey primer, now this is actually one from a while ago, I've got better at it than this now. So I've done the window fill, done the grey primer, and then you find the little gaps where I might not have filled it properly. What I've actually done then is scraped it ever so gently with a blade to give the next bit of filler something to key into. So that's me going around now filling it. And then you sand them down. Again, they start to look smoother. And generally now I can get away with doing a full coach and maybe have a second fill in a couple of places, because it's just nothing more than practice. And that's where I've got to with the pictures. So if Paul, can you, so if I stop sharing, have you got anyone with questions so far? Ed, you might need to unmute yourself.
I have. Just out of sheer interest, what's your preferred filler? Is it green stuff or do you use something else?
It's I would say it's the Squadron white putty.
Yeah,
they do agree, but I started using the white, and I don't think there's a difference between them. I think it is purely.
No, it's just colours.
Yeah.
No, it's streets ahead of milliput.
Yeah. It's all pre-mixed as well. There's no messing with it, and that tube's probably about 4 years old and still plenty left in it. And I'll show you how I apply that as well. I've got a couple of tools as well. So, is it possible now, Paul? You can put my workbench cam as the main picture.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. My hands. Right. So,
one quick thing before you move on. Following on from Carl's 3D.
Yeah.
I use that siding based on advice from yourself previously to use the grills, and it works very well. The thing that I've been doing recently is actually using the 3D printer to draw up, put window plates and create new windows, actually using a 3D printer. Because it takes a bit of time to get it sorted, but it just saves cutting other coaches up, because you can set it out in the CAD system. So it just follows on really from what Carl was saying earlier on. It's just a different technique, I think, to achieve the same.
Yeah, like I said, these techniques were from me. And I've actually got a 3D printer earlier this year. And again, I'm looking at that. I know people do 3D printed window blanks, but I don't know if you've had any experience with the Airfix coaches, but they all tend to be different window sizes.
The fragments aren't much different either.
You can actually go down one of these things here and you'll find that all the windows are different sizes.
Yeah.
Only slightly, but they're different enough to be a bit of a pain. But having said that, even the 3D printed blank, you're still going to put a little bit of fill around it. So I probably will experiment at some time. They're not too distant.
I'm assuming the coach side is flat at the point of the window, so it's not going. You're not going to have any issues with the camber of the coach either when you go to print it.
That's true, Carl. They are flat. Might choose a flat across the frame. Yes, absolutely. So hold on. There's a very strong chance I'm going to get interrupted by a cat. There's a cat just wandering across my bench here. So hold on. I'm just going to have to get rid of this thing. So he's one very friendly cat. So right. And the other thing, we might get interrupted by. Oh no, it's not due for it. There's a northern bell past me in an half an hour or so.
That's not a distraction.
Sorry.
I says that's not going to be a distraction.
No. You'll see it in the background of the main picture. So going off the Mark II, as I said before, they will donate bits to other coaches. This one's given up things like his guards doors, a couple of smaller windows. The door there has now ended up as a driver's side window. And the other thing.
Your microphone's wandering a bit there, Mick. Can't hear you.
Hold on. Can you get that?
Yeah, better.
Yeah.
It can sometimes be a problem with Zoom with microphones. That's one of the problems with Zoom, is it can drop out with microphones.
Right. Well, I've got hopefully it all works. My laptop's at the side of me where I showed you pictures from, and that's using the audio. But obviously the bench cam is sat just here above me, so that's where I'm hopefully it's all going to work. So do pipe up if it doesn't. So yeah. Not only can cut the bits out, you can then use this for practicing various other techniques. So if you want to try a different type of window fill, this is the sort of thing I'll have a go at if you want to do a 3D print. Or there's a couple of coaches where the window has a grill in. I think 974 is one of those, and there's another one of the radio services as well. That is where I've actually cut out one of the. I was experimenting with a rollback and a section of roof I wanted to play around with, but I used to cut the rollbacks out You know, it doesn't show them particularly well in that light, does it? I'm trying to see. There we go. Yeah. So I used to cut the raw backs out and graft them in, but nowadays I've got some of guys' 3D printed ones. So here we are. Is part of a coach that's donated its to the cause. So what I'll do is I'll use 30 thou or 40 thou plastic card, and I'll cut a strip of it the width of a window or fractionally over. The next one is obviously cut a section again slightly longer than you need for the window. So there's one I've got in best blue Peter tradition, and it's just not quite a fit. Yeah, it's not quite there. But there's a couple of things I'm going to do now to make it a bit easier to do. Well, first of all, I've got to take the window frames off. I'll start on this one. And the way I tend to take the window frames off is score down them very, very carefully. And then eventually the frame will come off. So I'll do that one there. Sharp curved blade. You can see it's just gradually coming off and it pops off. And then to make it flush, curved blade again, doing that, just scraping it along the edge. And it's surprising at how flat you could actually get that. So next thing I will do on that, I'm putting a blank in. I'm not going to waste time rounding the corners of the blank. So the quick thing to do is one big file. Very coarse, very rough, but it works. And I'll square off all the corners. It says live TV. In fact, is that one I did before? I can't remember now. Actually, sorry. Shows where I'm up to. That's the window I've done before. So all the frames have gone off that one. Square the four corners. Again, it doesn't matter if you actually catch a bit of things, because at the end of the day, it's going to get filled, it's going to get primed. So I've now got my blank, and it's almost a fit. Now, I don't know how many of you know about Airfix coaches, but the draw angle for the mold on these is quite pronounced. There really is quite a sharp angle on them. In fact, that's a good example of that piece of plastic is just a loose fit in there, yet it won't even think about going through that window. That's a good example of the fact that two windows are a different size. So that plastic is about the right size. And what I'm going to do on that is now even put a bevel on it. So, and the reason behind putting the bevel on it will come clear in a minute. So I'll put all four on. So I'm chamfering all the corners. And just to get away with that little, because I haven't done the full rounding, the full squaring out of the coach windows, I'll just take those corners off as well. And the next thing is to try and offer it up to the coach. It's nearly there. And the best thing is the mark one finger, and I'm just running it over the edges to find out where it doesn't quite push down. So taking a line off the edge of it. Again, do the corners. And hopefully, takes 2 or 3 goes sometimes. But yeah, that's almost there. And the reason behind putting the bevel on the edges is that it sits into the opening, and also gives you a bit of key when the solvent goes on. So that's about where it should be. Solvent, my preferred weapon of choice is plastic weld. I know people use mech, and I use people other things as well. So holding the window frame in place, in the coach we go. And sometimes if you've got the chance, go through it like that as well, make it all easier for yourself. Using a reasonable amount of solvent. Now, the reason behind that is, where I've had those 2 bevels, I can now just push that in a little bit more as well. So I've softened the plastic, nice bit of thumbnail as well, really pushes it in. And what you end up with is just keep checking it. So I've got some really nice sort of soft plastic edges to the window frame blank, and it's just pushing to coach. Just checking all the way around to make sure it's flat. Even using the end of a ruler to do that with it as well. Just run it along.
That's neat.
And you end up so you're making that blank level with the body. Yeah. So you're just doing that. What you don't want to do is push it through too far. Otherwise, you end up with a layer of filler across all of it that is a sod to file down properly. Yeah. The other thing I'll do on windows like that, I'll show you. Hopefully, I'll show you on one of these others that I've already pre-filled. There's my little thing. Just on the inside, again, sliver of microstrip afterwards, put round the insides. Again, just let go soft a bit. Use a like a solvent, get it go soft, and push it in, and you end up with a really strong joint. Because the worst thing you're going to have is that will flex in later life, and all the filler that's around it will crack, and that's one thing you don't want. As I say, I've learned that just through practicing. And again, if for whatever reason I've got any big holes, I'll actually use parts of old body shell to fill them with, and I'll use the same method of flattening it off. So again, I don't know how clear that is to see, but let's see how close we can get to the camera. Where we go? That side there. Get the focus. There's actually virtually zero gap on that, but I'll still go around it with a filler. And now, my favorite tool, one of the things I've for absolutely years and years and years. Most people don't like the dentist, but I like my dentist because he's given me a couple of his old filling tools. So next time you're at the dentist, ask him what he does with these things. So on one end, he's got a nice little sort of flat blade, on the other end, a curved blade, and the both of them are perfect for putting filler on. So all I do with the filler is I've got my little squadron white, tiny sliver of it, and I will just do that. And just pushing it nicely into the gaps and scraping any off, because the less filler you put on, the less you've got to take off when you've got to sand it down. And as I said before, you can always revisit the filler. Oops. And that should be enough. And that's why I've said that tube before mine has lasted years, because I just put so little on. Now, if you're doing something like 99666, or which one is it? 977986, then there's a lot of windows to fill in. Those are the two they're used now as structure gauging train match vehicles. But again, you can see inside it's got the strengtheners on the windows. So they will. I could twist that around. It's not going anywhere. It's not moving anywhere. It's that one. So that's the filler done. And the squadron, again, another reason for applying small amounts is it dries pretty quickly. But here's what I did earlier on the other side. So I've got a little bit of filler to take off. Now, some people see this method that I'm doing now as like you shouldn't be doing it, but it works. Square needle file, and I'll actually use it like that method. I'm using it more as a scraper. Again, we'll go as far as we can with this one. It's a shame actually the window blank and the forward are the same colour, as you'd actually see how little filler does end up on it. I'm actually using, say, a little scraper method. If I find I've got a high point with the plastic for whatever reason, then my other favourite tool, and again, it will work with filler, is, where's it gone? Swore I brought. I brought all the tools in. Yes, I have. There it is a curved blade, but it's got a flat edge. You can actually use it like that. I find this curved blade is a lot easier to control than a straight blade. So already that's beginning to look something like. It's surprising to say with the small amounts of filler, you only need to scrape tiny bits off. And in reality, there should not be any filler outside of the window at the end of it all. It should be just on the edges. And that, at first glance, doesn't look too bad. So that's it, really. A very quick half-hour session. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Truth is in the pudding. If you give me 30 seconds, I'm actually going to take that outside. I'll spray it with grey paint, and we'll see how quickly that has come out. So give me a minute. I'll get the paint.
You might have to sing, Paul, just in the interim.
You'll be lucky. Singing days are over.
You don't want to put everyone off.
Oh, shut up.
Go on, Paul, make the trains crash. Dare you.
That's good.
Right, we're back.
That was quick.
It was very quick.
So where's it gone?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a little hole. You can just see a little hole there. Yeah. And that's it. So what I'll do is I'll let that grey paint go off.
Yeah, I can see
go
that.
around it again. Tiniest amount. The other, I went and dropped it. I've got some very, very fine wet and dry that will bend over and just rub round as well. So like 600 grit or something like that as a final finish.
If you'd left the white stuff a bit longer, you probably wouldn't have had that problem.
What, the hole?
Yeah, because there's an air bubble in it probably.
No, that hole's there. I think that hole's there because I didn't put foam in it, Ed.
All right, cool.
When I start looking at it better under a sort of proper, just about see it there.
Yeah, you can see it in the camera, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, that hole's there. So that's essentially it. There's one I filled before. That's almost ready to start rubbing down. It's that dry now. When you got things like to do, I'm going to say some of them just have windows filled and they've kept the frames. And a good example will be the DBSOs, or should be called RTOVs, remote train operating vehicles. So there's one. What I have done with that one is, yes, I do take a bit more care when I'm fitting the blank. So that one, you do take some time, obviously, because that has to be matched to the exact hole as much as possible, pressed in. I have before now used Showplan laser glaze. I use Showplan laser glaze anyway for glazing the coaches at the end. But before now, I've actually used the Showplan window and put it in and painted it. So painted over windows, which is something I generally don't do, but in that case, it does actually work. That's the DBSO. That one's going to be number 3. And because I'm always working on coaches, I always stick what I'm doing, what I'm working on, the numbers goes inside. You might just make out 9703.
9703 or 9702.
Yeah, the reason it says 9702, Mike, is because that's 9702.
Right.
Or it will become 9702. And that one will become 9701.
Bloody hell.
I've already done 8. I've already done number 8 and 14. So I've got some catching up to do.
Are you doing all of them, Mick?
I'm getting there. I'll end up doing all 5 of the DBSOs. Yes. I've done one yellow Mark 3 DVT, and I will be doing the other 3. I've got them in white. That's going to become one of the plain line pattern vehicles.
Right.
5981. In fact, it came past me last week. what else have we got? I'm doing the 2 structure gauging pages. In fact, I've already done one. That is, that's one of the PLPRs, 72631, so one of the ex-Gatwick units. So that's with its Gatwick style, can't see that too clearly, with its Gatwick style electrical cabinet. Now, Hurst used to make them, cast metal. That one's been made out of plastic, but I'm going to do a 3D print version with a bit of luck.
Right, you can put me down for a set, Mick, or 2 or 3.
Yeah. And as Tim mentioned earlier on, this has got DCC Concepts wheel springs and wheels.
Oh.
So they're very good, very low friction wheel pickup. So that's going to have a couple of lights on it. The LEDs are going to be mounted. In fact, I tell you what, it's actually got the PL. Again, doesn't show it too clear. That's the PLPR box with the white lights. I've actually just done a 3D print of one, and it's now split into 2, and it'll have 2 sets of white lights that shine down on the track. So they're going to be removed. That one's going to get removed shortly and be replaced with one of my 3D prints.
So Mick, you can heartily recommend DCC Concepts items, can you?
I can indeed. As some of you know, I do actually work for the company. Some of you. So, yeah, and that's 7260. That's one of the structure gauging coaches. Now the white is the plastic protection film that comes with laser glaze, and that's the last thing that gets removed. I put the laser glaze in, it'll have its little bit of weathering, and then they will come off last, absolute last. Little details on the roof and nothing more than tiny bits of styrene, the various little areas and things that they have. So you usually find me, when there's any yellow trains hanging around, I'm often on a bridge because nobody takes pictures of roofs. There's loads of 3/4 pictures on the internet, but not much up from a roof. So that's where I normally end up.
Well, that's what you get for being a modeler as opposed to a photographer.
Yeah, my photographs are crap, but the record shots, the detail shots, they're nothing. That's exactly what they're for.
Well, you know how quickly they're chopping and changing them. You could find one of them. They've added something or taken it away next week. And you wouldn't know.
Yeah, there was. I've done 2 versions. The high-speed track recorder 550, and I literally was just about to paint it yellow, and I found it blanked in another window. So 550 has had about, I think, 4 window layouts in its lifetime, and I've done 2 versions. But again, that was done the same method, chopping the windows, taking that one out, because 550's got, I think, 3 of them down one side. So that's real much with me coaches. As I said, these methods, they work for me. They're pretty much all Airfix Mark IIs, and I was picking them up for a £5 at a time. So you can't go wrong for a few bits of plastic. It cost me more in paint and transfers to do these jobs.
Yeah.
Else.
I've got quite a few Airfix and mainline Mark II Ds.
In fact, the single most expensive part of them is the laser glaze.
Oh yeah, that's expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike,
these are my modelling tools. That's it. That's all I need for filling windows. This lot here.
Yeah, but the laser glaze saves so much time. I mean, imagine putting each of them out by hand, your heart to be broken.
But with an Airfix one, you've got to play around a little bit, especially with the door windows, because they are different sizes.
And particularly when you've repainted them, even the width of the paint is pain.
You're right, exactly right. Yeah. So as I say,
it's better than cutting them all out by hand, because forget it.
Yeah, I mean, I admit it. I do have to cut. I will have to cut out by hand. Those. There we go. They will need cutting out by hand. But I've only got 3 to do. And by the way, if anyone is doing DBSOs, there are actually 2 different middle window sizes, depending on which ones you do. And I think that's a remnant of their angrier days. I'm not entirely certain, but I have a feeling that one of them has actually had a large window turned into a small window as well.
Yeah, a few of them had them completely filled over, so do drafts apparently.
Yeah, but when they're in use now, they've got the 3 windows on. But yeah, like doing anything, particularly current day scene, the only thing is current photographs. I will be doing 950001 again soon. Again, that's changed from when I last did it in, what was it, early 2010s.
When you're doing the HST, Mike, Mick.
And the HST as well, obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
Someone on here very kindly provided lots of photographs. Mike, thanks a lot. A few weeks back. But again, I'm still, you still search around because it's roof photographs a lot. It does come past me at work once every 4 weeks, but unfortunately, it's doing like 60 miles an hour, so it's not easy to.
I might have a few. I might have a few roof photos of the Mark IIs as well, because when they went to Honeybourne, to Long Marston, and they were stopped at Honeybourne, you can get on the bridge, and when it's stationary, waiting to go out onto the main line. I did get a few photos of those, some of those. I don't know which, but that one with the big bucket on behind it, the yellow one just poking out from behind the paper. That's got the big.
Oh, that one. Yeah, that's got the dustbin on it. That's got the
dustbin on it.
That's actually just a piece of.
Yeah, I've got some photographs of that coach.
Yeah, 2 pieces of tube. There is actually a slot cut in it, and there's a red LED fixed in the middle there to create the ring of light. Yeah, that's the structure gauging train that actually runs with. He says with that one. Sorry, get it the right way around, because one end of the barriers doesn't have buffers on, because they have the bar between them. Now, no,
big long bar coupling.
Big long bar with lots of cables. And there is actually someone makes a 3D print of that as well now. It's a bit large, I think. But
his is perfect, Mick. His are just perfect models.
It's given me an idea.
Let's not lower the tone. Sorry, Paul.
Taught him everything.
Sorry, Paul. I missed that. Say that again.
I said Carl taught him everything.
Oh.
Carl taught him nothing. Carl criticised one of his models once, and I got blocked.
Oh, Carl, that's it. You're damned.
That's it.
You're damned to hell.
Yeah.
Oh,
I told
you're
him,
a naughty boy.
I told him the number of ribs on that structure gauging train was wrong, and that was it.
What did I say? I think I said to him, "When's it bin day where you live?"
Yeah.
That's my usual. That's my usual put down for that.
That's essentially my coach. I'm saying cut and short. I don't do a massive amount of true cut and short with the coaches, the way with the windows. Obviously, the big cut and short project I did was the HRA, HTA hoppers. But I literally was sewing them. It's like the classic. Let's make a mini out of 2 halves. Cut them in half and put them back together again.
How about an HTA, Mick?
The HRA, you mean, Mike?
Is it? Well, it was an HTA, wasn't it?
Yeah. The HTAs have been turned to HRAs. Well, I'll tell you what. If we,
are you showing one?
I'll show. Give me a moment. I wasn't really ready for this, but give me a second.
Yes, please do one of those.
Where have we got? Should
Sure,
be.
I'm paying you for that one as well, Mick.
You what? Sorry.
I'm sure I'm paying you to do a presentation on that as well.
Yeah. Well, just a very quick. The HRA was actually, in the end of the day, it was actually quite a simple job.
Then Mick got caught up with Murphy's Law of Rare Modelling. If you convert, somebody's going to do a ready to run one.
I know. I did one as a test, Ed, and then I showed it to the guys at Bachman, and they were just not the slightest bit interested. And I thought that's fine. So,
but there are other manufacturers out there.
There are. But I mean, I was trying the idea of cutting down. What was it going to be? The HHAs. They've been chopped down now.
Yeah, HHAs, HXAs.
Yeah, and of course
HHAs, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Akira Scale are already doing the job for me in the HYA IIA.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but
nobody's doing the HHAs though.
Yeah,
not yet.
Not yet. Well,
not yet.
Again, I don't think Bachman will do it. Will they?
I don't think so. So anyway, let's see where we were.
I was going to say, if you're grabbing stuff from the shed, mate, get your auto rack.
No, here we go. So, can you now see a picture of an HTA?
Yep. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So there's an HTA that just gets stripped down. These are the weights in the ends, and they do actually come apart pretty quickly. Those are the underdoor parts. And on an HTA to HRA conversion, they've essentially taken out the middle bay. It's about 44 millimeters, but there's a way of working all this out as you go along. So I've sewn them in about 44 millimeters off. So you've got obviously 2 parts of the body, That's the bit of body that's been taken out. Now, I don't take the middle part of the chassis out or the lower section. I take an offset. So you can see there, it's still got a big chunk on the right and then this bit on the left now. So that's the left-hand bay. It's not the middle bay. Yeah.
Yep. Not the middle bay.
Sorry, hold on. Oh, no, hold on. Why is that? Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. It's part of the middle bay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I couldn't see all my own picture. Part of the middle bay has come out.
Yeah.
Also part of the end bay. So, what I've done is when they went back together, I didn't put the cuts in exactly the same place in the top section and the body section, and that will become clear very quickly. So, one part of the top section goes into the bottom section. Ignore these, by the way. That's where, if you put an HDA back in the box the wrong way around in the packaging, that's what it does to the door bar. So I've ended up with this longer section of the body over the shorter section of the, I'm not going to say chassis, the lower bit. And
underframe.
Well, it's partly underframe. That's body, that's underframe.
Yeah.
But it gives me a staggered joint. So I then stick the next bit on, and this is where I match it up. So I will now cut this bit to the exact length so that hopper, because I've already got one end of the hopper there, that length of that hopper matches that hopper there. So I end up with the underframe is then the right length, or the lower section right length. And then I do exactly the same with the top section. Now is the top section, I will gradually trim down so it fits. And that's it there. That is actually the model joint. Yeah. The model joint is quite a big stagger, and that makes for quite a strong wagon.
Isn't the real joint a big stagger as well?
The real one is staggered, Mike, but the real one is actually staggered something like, in fact, it'll come to it in a minute because I'll show you. I'll put the stagger back in. So I now fill it in. Now, one thing on an original Bachmann HTA is there is a joint line down there between the top and bottom sections. So I've now got, and when the wagons go back together, that joint is never as good. So it was like, yeah, sod it, fill it. So I filled that, and then that, of course, is the joint between the wagons, between the two sections. And then when it's sanded down, that's what it looks like. So that shows there's actually not a huge amount of filler involved.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in this case, they actually, I did use grey primer to begin with, but then because they're going to be red in the end, you end up with the base coat then becomes a red primer. So you can't see the joint on that one. Now, the real wagon does actually have a joint like that. So the real wagon is a step joint. Now, of course, on the real one, it's dead easy to do that. But if I tried to cut that joint on the model, that would be hard work. So what I've done is, I've used paper to represent. There is a reinforcing strip that goes down them. So that's
inside or outside.
It's certainly on the outside, Mike. I don't know if it's on the inside as well, but it's certainly on the outside, and obviously on both sides. And it is a mirrored joint on the other side. And then you can't see it. You can't actually see it too clear, but that's the other half of the paper joint is just there. You can just see the top of it there.
Yeah, you can see it on the top. You can see it on the top section.
You see the top section, and then that there is where the joint goes down the body side there, and then obviously down across the underframe. In fact, that shows it better there.
Oh yeah, you've got quite a train length of these, haven't you?
16.
16.
I did this 16 times. Yes, repeated the jobs. They are. So that was the prototype. And the rest of them, I actually did quite a lot of work on them at the Demu show. I know they're saying demonstrations should never end up with lots of work done, but that was actually one of those jobs you could talk and do, and it didn't actually need a lot of concentration after I'd done one of them. And I could like glue it, leave it to set, glue it, leave it to set, and work my way down, and then glue the next bit and fill it. And I got quite a few done. Then obviously lots of red paint involved, and the painful part, there's 59 decals per wagon times 16. So Steve at Railtech did me a nice job, and he actually created me 16 bespoke sets of numbers as well. The odd one out is that the prototype he did doesn't actually have a number on the top. So that's recognizable from a distance. And also, I think things like the old red flashes are in different places, but the production batch of 120 wagons or so. And some have been fitted with buffers as well, by the way. And that's the full train.
And some are outers and some are inners, are they?
What they've only fitted buffers on one end of some of them, Mike.
Yeah. Because outer wagons, that's a nice viaduct.
There we go.
Yeah,
Where's this at
more
home?
reasons for the backline.
No, that's actually at work.
Where's the viaduct, Mick?
The viaduct is Ribblehead.
Who's
Bloody
building that?
hell.
That was built in Australia and shipped over to the UK in a 40-foot container with lots of other things.
Wow.
What, from DCC Concepts?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've seen it in the flesh. It's very impressive.
Yeah. And there's now a back scene behind it. We haven't had time to do all the scenery in front of it. That's one of my jobs this summer, or remaining summer.
It's changed since I saw it last then, Mick.
Yeah, it has. And these actually just more pictures of the same thing.
Is that layout in the DCC offices then? Your
In the show,
workplace?
it's partially in the office and partially in the showroom.
That's in the downstairs bit, isn't it, Mick?
It is, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Is it fixed? It's not going anywhere.
Oh, it's not going anywhere. No, it's not going anywhere. And these are obviously other wagons in various stages.
Must be nice going to work and playing trains.
Sometimes.
Depends
Depending on who's there with you, Mick.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's like what I call that second fill I was on about with the coaches. So I've done the grey primer and gone, actually, it just needs a little bit more down the joint line. And then obviously now starting to build things in. But yeah,
I'm gonna have a go at some of those.
And the door bars, what I did with the door, because obviously on a real one, is it left side, right side, left side. On the two hopper wagons, obviously one on the left, one on the right. So again, I will recover as much of this gear as I could from the original cut down wagon, the original wagons.
Do they unclip though?
That's actually separate molding. That's a separate molding on a Bachmann wagon. Yeah.
Do they come off easy?
No, some do, some don't. Some they're actually going to tiny slots, and some of them pop out, and some didn't.
Yeah, break off, don't they?
Yeah,
they are.
Well, they weren't designed to be removable. There's
No.
this in mind.
So presumably they are staggered, one each side.
Yes, they are, Tim. Yeah.
Right.
And if I just I'll go to another folder. He says, where have we gone? Now, of course, the other job I've done on them, we're going away from the cut and shut. But hold on, where's it gone? I'm saying that one there. On there. So I was going to do graffiti. I was thinking about doing graffiti as a topic, but didn't, because it's probably a bit tricky to do on the screen. So a lot of these pictures are actually based on a lot that Chris Sivertson sent me. So what I do here is I build it up in layers. Now that's actually a silver paint pen UFO, and you'll see what these come eventually. And that is actually a sort of not quite dry brushing silver as a base coat. Same on these. And you'll see what they've come as I go on. That's actually white, because white suited itself as the base coat. And it doesn't matter. All these graffiti is copied from real photographs, but it doesn't matter if you get it slightly wrong.
No.
Because who's going to know at the end of the day?
Who's going to care? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So these are all copied from the real graffiti. Again, just a bit of dry brushing on the ends.
Bloody brilliant.
And that, again, silver, black, and that's either done with the paint pen, or if it's a really fine line, actually do it with the brush. These are all freehand.
Yeah, very nice, mate.
They're all freehand. Even that as well. That's actually a paint pen. That's actually a little bit thicker than I really wanted. I will actually put pencil lines on as a guideline, but there is no decals involved. There's nothing. That's all pure freehand.
What width and diameter of paint pen do you use, Mick?
It's about, I can't remember. It's one of the what make it? Posca pens. and they're the smallest ones they do. I can't remember what they are now, Tim.
That 0.4 or something like that.
Yeah, it's down that way.
Would you say
Down
that's,
that way?
was it fine enough perhaps to use for BR lining?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I'll come back to something in a minute.
Carrick saying 0.2 millimeters.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
even better.
So yeah, that's all.
It's like a needle
all,
tip.
Yeah, that's all freehand.
But the thing with these is graffiti is never in straight lines. So
No, it's not. It isn't.
No, so if you're going to use it
right.
as a lining pen, you're just wasting your time, particularly cancel stripes. Not forget about it. Your patience will be tested too much.
And the colours, I use a mix. I believe it or not, I use a mix of whatever paint's nearest. So some of it's enamel, some of it's acrylics, and it goes on one over the other. And if I have to make any colours up, I will just mix up a little bit of whatever I need there and then.
Bit like the real thing.
Yeah. I mean, they'll get the cheapest spray cans they can get from Aldi, won't they? These guys.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the. I mean, we've got a few minutes. Who wants to see the PCA graffiti? I know some of you already seen it.
Oh, go on.
The
Then.
what?
The auto rack. Mick, get the auto rack out.
Oh, the auto rack. Go on now. Yeah. Now you've thrown me there, Ed, but I know which one you mean. I need to find it. Hold on. I have a feeling that might be one of the pictures that went missing.
I'll get the actual one. It's probably not far away from me.
Actually, you're right, Ed. It's not too far away from me.
Oh, has the Northern Bell been past you yet, Mick?
No, 20 minutes, I think it is, Tim. No, I can't. Is my bench cam still on?
Yeah.
Crap train
right.
these days, that is.
Again, right. Give me. Ed's done me. Ed's done me a double there. So give me a sec.
All right.
Yeah, we can't actually. We haven't got his. Oh, just while you're waiting. Here he is.
Oh, blimey.
Right. So,
that's one I killed earlier.
Oh my word. Yeah, it's the irony I found that the UK Scorpions are actually on the Isle of Sheppey, of all places.
I'm not going to touch that thing at the end.
Yeah, it might hurt.
Right. So just Paul, just put us back on the workbench cam.
Do that in a sec.
So put my bench cam as the main camera. Yeah. Right. I have a little side project doing some American stuff, and of course, graffiti there over there is.
Oh yes, I know what we're going to see.
So this here is an auto rack. These are used for carrying cars. There's either 2 or 3 levels. That's just had some weathering. This is actually mesh. That's actually a mesh side. But on the other side, what they're known for, some of these auto racks, is some very impressive graffiti.
Right.
That's longer than a Mark III and double O.
I'll say put the Mark II, one of the Mark IIs beside it, giving it the size.
Oh, good grief.
That's how big this thing is.
Yeah,
and that one, by the way, the blue and yellow were done with a brush, but the black and white have actually been done with a paint pen and the ruler. Just me putting a ruler there and drawing down it with a paint pen.
Was that taken from a prototype?
Sorry?
Yes.
Well, that was taken for a prototype picture.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Right.
That's
impressive.
Yeah, I mean,
hold it up again there, Mick. Actually, there's something you forgot to point out. See the running number at the bottom, just where the TM. See if the graffiti artists don't cover that, they're not in a mad rush to repaint the wagon.
Yeah, you're right there, Ed. And they've started doing that in the UK as well. I've found certainly on the PCAs that come past me. When I say the PCAs that come past me, some of you know I live next door to a railway line. You might have heard the trains going past. But I'll just find very, very quickly.
You find the original, Mick.
What, for that wagon?
Yeah, the one that. Yeah, that's the one you did it from.
Hold on. Should have.
There's no rush, Mick. Take your time.
No, I actually. No, I actually had a computer crash a few weeks back, and I have a feeling it might have just taken out those pictures.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it has.
That wasn't the only one you did, was it?
Oh no, I've done loads more. I've done loads more,
Yeah.
but again, those pictures of they've gone. But at least I've still got the wagon, so I need to
That's a shame.
photograph them all. Yeah, it was actually, but unfortunately, that's one of these things that happened.
You should be able to find them again, shouldn't you?
Yeah, I'm actually. I've got to take my laptop to a specialist guy, and hopefully he can resurrect just a couple of directories that were missing. So very quick. I've got one more.
What's the make of that paint pen you said again?
Posca.
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 Ah, Posca. Thank you.
Yeah.
If you Google image search too much auto rack, you'll see a few of them.
I was just going to say thanks, Mick. Wonderful selection of work.
Oh,
I also model yellow trains and also graffiti. Your tool bench looks identical to mine, but there's one tool I've got on that you don't. And I don't know, can anybody see that? I just find it's a brilliant tool for doing window blanks and for doing...
What are we looking at?
Wagons.
We're looking.
It's
We're not looking anywhere yet.
Tools. It's just a flat surface with two different carborundum surfaces on that you can use for window blanks or for getting square ends where you're butting two things together.
Yeah. Like I said before, the methods I use work for me. The tools I use work for me.
No.
I don't have any problem with other people using other stuff. And I'll often do my little demos at shows and such like, and people go, I use such a thing. And I go, oh, that's a good idea. And I'll start using it myself. I don't have any problems in doing that at all. So yeah, and always willing to learn.
I saw that at the Ali Pali Model Engineering Show one year, and I thought it might be useful. Let's buy one for sort of 16 quid. And I've never could work without it now.
yeah. It's like that dentist tool I've got. Yeah. It's like I feel lost without it. If it's not there when I'm doing some filling, I get that. What's it called, that thing there? Yeah. So right, I think that's me done. Is it?
Thank you.
I hope you don't mind me asking a stupid question there. With all this cut and shut stuff, you get problems with different plastics there, try and join them together and then warping or stuff like that, or not joining?
Certainly not the ones I've done, you, because they're only window sized, and that's what I also put those little strengtheners on the back for. But if you use 30,000, it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. And again, I'm also in the places where I've had to fill. I'll use the same plastic as the body. I'll cut a body up and use bits of it to fill another body. But those BSOs are used.
They're probably ABS or something, aren't they?
Well, the plastic does vary quite a lot, because if you try paint stripping an Airfix coach in DOT for brake fluid, it's brilliant. Put a backman coach in there, and the backman thing just disappears. It goes soft on you. So there's different grades of plastic used, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, sorry about that, but just it's occurred to be there,
Yeah.
Mick.
Yes.
Can I congratulate you on that? Because if it had been me, I'd have cut my fingers with all these people watching.
I'll tell you what, I'm doing the workbench stuff here, and I'm trying to watch my screen at the side of me at the same time.
Even better.
So yeah. Whereas when I'm doing it on a show demo, obviously I've got it right in front of me. I'm not looking at anything else apart from what I'm working on.
Yeah, well, let's just have a moment's silence now for the amount of people who've wrecked a Bachmann Mark II FDBSO trying to do what you've done.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple I've not got any Bachmann 2Fs, but I've got a couple of the Hornby 2Ds to see what they're like, the newer versions.
Well, the Hornby 2F, you can't get them.
Yeah,
they're very, very short supply.
But certainly, I've got a big stash of I'm going to say there's still Airfix ones. They're either Airfix, Dapol, Mainline, and then there's a couple of Hornby ones that I managed to pick up cheap, but they're all the same moulding, and that's where the fleet looks consistent.
So you don't use
I know
the
some
Lima.
people say the tumble home's not right, but when you paint it yellow, you can't actually tell.
So you don't use any of the Lima ones at all, no?
I do actually, Ed. Yeah, I used to use them when I needed the right donor. So what was it? Lima's are 2 E's, aren't they?
Well, I think it's meant to be an F.
No, I thought Lima did 2 Fs.
Whichever, anyway. I used to use them for toilet windows being the right way around, but now it's a case of sod it. If I haven't got a toilet window in the right place, I'll move one, I'll graft one in. So
Mick, what do you reckon to the Batman one, the 2F?
I haven't got one, Tim, so I don't know.
All right. I managed to get a set of 4 bodies as donors to make 2 Cs from. There'll be a cut and shut for some of those, just for a rake.
Yeah.
They're going to be fun. I do want to do a 2F into a high-speed track recording car, treble 9550.
Yeah.
2F.
Yeah, there's 5 versions of it. But if anyone's going to indulge me for 2 minutes, shall I show my PCA cement wagons?
I'll go on then.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So there we go. These actually run past me, and again, they're all taken from real-life graffiti pictures. In fact, that is the deck. That's the fence on my decking. The railway line is there.
Oh, gosh.
And that thing there is the shed where I make everything in. I'm not there at the moment. Actually, the back of the conservatory. But so this is these mixture of weathering powders. Again, all hand layered. But again, they ended up with a load of recently what I call VTG safety egg. They're little safety stickers, and they just put the stickers on over the graffiti. And then there is one wagon that's actually, so the graffiti's on it, and they just bang the sticker on it. That's it.
I think I've actually seen that very one.
Quite a few of these wagons actually have been cleaned off recently. There's 20 come past me 3 times a week, and I think there's only 2 with graffiti now.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that one. We get that on the St Pancras too.
In fact, that one is still existing. That one still carries the graffiti, and it actually came past me earlier today. That one has actually been graffitied again over the top since, with a different one. Rude. I think that's it. Oh yeah, hunt couplings. Yep, so there we go.
Very good.
Who's next?
Thank
you, Mick.
Jump into Pat. Yeah, thank you, Mick.
Yeah.
Good, very informative.
Very interesting.
Right,
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Some people would have heard that Ernie can't do his session tonight. So we've got some extra time, but we'll see how Pat goes. We've got the next session after you, Pat, that's been stopped. So
Right.
I can't make it, and that's another half hour. So we'll see what's going on and how we proceed. Good to see Mr. Eves join us in his palatial home.
Yeah, but we've got I've got Bertie here who's just nipped to the loo, and we've got Simon as well.
Yeah, he needs a rest, old Simon, doesn't he?
He does, doesn't he?